Hello, Ren of Taurus Rising, back with you again for our continuation of our Fool's Journey series. And today is exciting because it's the final card of the Fool's Journey. It's technically not the end because it's a cycle, so we go back to the Fool. But in terms of all the cards that we've gone through, the World is the final card of the Major Arcana, the final card in the Fool's Journey. So if you look at the symbolism here, we've got a figure, and it's always described as a dancing figure in the middle of a laurel wreath. Laurel wreath represents kind of victory. And the essence of this card is it's a completion, ending of a cycle. And then we've also got the four, they're the fixed signs of the zodiac, but also you could just think of the elements. So Leo for fire, Taurus for earth, then Aquarius for air, and Scorpio for water. I'm always kind of confused by the fact that this is supposed to be Scorpio because, does at face value that's not what it seems to be, but that's what it is. So the four figures here represent the fixed signs of the zodiac, but also you can just think of elements like earth, air, fire, and water. To me, which are sort of like pillars. If you think of those sort of grounding forces, those universal kind of forces and things in our lives, like water, air, fire, earth. Those are, important kind of elements that we all interface with every day in some sort of way. And also kind of the energy behind each of those elements. And they're all create a balance and a wholeness. So that's another part of an energetic of this card is wholeness. Like, the completing a cycle, feeling whole, integrated. So if we're relating this to the Fool's Journey, as the Fool goes through each kind of station, as you will, or if you will, like the Fool goes from the Magician, the High Priestess, and through all of them, all of the figures in the Fool's Journey, and the Fool learns things along the way, learns lessons, learns about relationships, taking accountability, cause and effect, consequences, all those things. That ultimately they kind of integrate all these lessons, and so they kind of how they know how to live. So you can kind of almost think, since it goes into the Fool again from the World, it's supposed to kind of just cycle back to the Fool. It's like the Fool is learning all of these things and integrating them constantly, but there's always more to learn. You could also kind of, the thought that's coming to mind for me is if you believe in past lives, it's like your soul comes through each incarnation and learns things. So it's like each time, like the Fool goes through the journey again, through a new incarnation, but with a different level of soul wisdom and inner knowledge that they come into this life with. You can also kind of think about that in your life, like when you enter a new decade or a new phase of your life where you're older and more mature, you've learned these things and you're integrating them, and you don't do things perfectly. There's always more to learn, but you're taking what you've learned to each, next phase of your life. So that's something you can think about with this card, is integrating knowledge constantly and bringing it into your next phase, your next cycle. Even every day is new and different for you, and you're going to have a chance to learn what you've practiced and implement what you've learned so far, and then learn new things. So it's a cycle. We are constantly in cycles, planetary cycles, just nature cycles, seasonal cycles, cycles in our lives. So there's a lot to this card. But basically, you can think of end of a cycle, wholeness, completion, or also just cycles in general, that cycles are ever present. So that's the energy of the World. And as we ask usually with this series is, where do we need the World energy in our lives? I'm going back to the Ethereal Vision deck today, just for old time's sake. Also, one thing that, as I've mentioned to y'all, that I like about this deck is that it has like 2 bonus cards in the Major Arcana. And so just wondering if maybe one of those will pop up today. So we ask, where do we need the World energy? Or what can we learn from the World energy in our lives today? And then as always, I use the Radiant Rider-Waite deck for our Major Arcana card, just because it's got that traditional symbolism. Interesting. We got the Ace of Swords reversed. Sorry, there's a bit of a glare, and it's got like a pastel color palette, so sometimes it's hard to see. But essentially, the Ace of Swords in the imagery, it's a hand, almost like out of nowhere, with the sword. And then it's other imagery you can see is a sort of a laurel wreath kind of thing up here with the crown. The crown represents mastery. So that's just, a little element there to speak to. And elementally, the swords reflect air, or they represent air, and thought, thinking, information, things like that. So at face value, it's like we've got this hand kind of with this sword. So it's almost like this hand out of nowhere, this, disembodied hand holding this sword. And an energy of this card is sort of like a breakthrough, or like an aha, like kind of putting some information together and, oh, okay, I think I'm figuring this out. Sort of like a breakthrough or an idea coming out of nowhere. Or maybe not so much out of nowhere, but just sort of as you're going around your day, maybe you're trying to work something out. It's like, oh, something kind of, some dots connect for you. So some sort of, it's a thought kind of energy, like some information, a thought is coming together for you. But it's reversed. So reversed relates to maybe some resistance or some lack of clarity. I really think of when I see the Ace of Swords reversed, it's almost like you're thinking so hard that you're really trying to like come to your solution, but you just can't because you keep on cycling through. There's this saying that the mindset that created a problem isn't the mindset that can solve a problem. So that sometimes you might find when you're really working on something, but when you take a break or you're doing something different or you're relaxing, that's when the solution will come to you. So that's kind of something that I'm getting from this card. So where do we need the world energy? Well, like when you're trying to figure something out, or you're trying to get to that solution, or maybe you're waiting for that idea to come to you. Perhaps you're in a creative field, like songwriter or artist, or even marketing, advertising, and you're just really trying to come up with that idea, or writing a paper even, and it's just not coming to you. That kind of thing, that's the kind of energy here. So if you're trying to figure something out, or like maybe just trying to make a decision too, maybe you've got lots of options, but you're just like, which is the right one? I don't know if I should take this job, or if I should take this job, or if I should make my schedule like this, or if I should do this first, or should I do this first, or then do that? This could be a major or minor decision, whether you're just trying to like sort out like a daily thing, or if you're trying to make a bigger decision around, okay, where am I going to live? What job am I going to take? Or also just trying to come up with some sort of idea, but some sort of thing on the thought plane, whether it be like a creative idea or just decision making. If you're having some resistance and just hitting a wall, there needs to be some sort of like integrated approach versus trying to be all logical, and also this person is the figure in here is described as like sort of a dancing figure, sort of, I don't know, free spirit. So maybe there needs to be some play, and you need to take a break so that you can release yourself from like these cycles of overthinking. So if you're trying to make a decision or come up with an idea and you're hitting some walls, and you're really maybe forcing solutions, there needs to be some sort of more whole integrated approach and some more play. And then just on the nose here, we've got like 4 other figures. It's like maybe consulting other people, outside forces, other minds, bringing other minds together to figure something out together. What's coming to mind right now is that it's the beginning of the year. So people are making New Year's resolutions, but also like tax season is coming up, maybe reconfiguring like financial goals. So this could, maybe if you're really stuck specifically on like financial decisions, maybe getting some consultation from people who maybe know more than you, or people who have been through what you've been through. Maybe you need to get an accountant. So that's just something that's coming to mind just because of the time of year. So if you're hitting some sort of mental wall, some sort of thought wall, some sort of block around decisions or creative ideas, or just like the flow isn't happening for you, there needs to be more of an integrated approach, and seeking outside forces, outside information, because the mindset that created a problem is not the mindset that can solve it. So that's kind of what's coming up when I read this card. But also related to the crown, like I said, represents mastery. Knowing that you do have some skill set inside, maybe you're not feeling confident. It's making me think of this author, Kenny Werner, who I've probably mentioned on this series before just because I'm a nerd. But Kenny Werner is a musician who is essentially has written some books about mindfulness and helping musicians get into the flow by just being in the moment and not trying to sound good. When you try to sound good, when you're forcing a solution, it usually gets the opposite effect. And one thing he says in these meditations that he's created are, you are great, you are a master. So knowing that you are great, you are a master, you can figure this out. You just need to stop trying so hard or seek outside, some outside perspectives. An integrate approach, a whole approach versus like a one-sided approach. And that you will, get to the end of it, because this is the end of a cycle. That's what the world represents. I know it's vague, but this is a collective reading, not an individual reading. So this may not land, but hopefully it does. But take what you like and leave the rest. As I usually do, I like to do a bonus card by pulling the card in the bottom to see if there's anything else. And we have the Seven of Cups. Now, the cups represent like water and emotions, but this, to me, whenever I see the Seven of Cups, it's a very mental card to me about like making decisions. It's about like choice, and in the traditional card, there's a person who's standing looking at these Seven of Cups like, oh, which one should I pick, kind of thing. This is sort of similar, but they're literally, the figure in this card has like this dragon like in the way, and like they can't really get to the cups that they need. So they literally have a block, and they're stuck and they can't decide what to do. And of course it's reversed as well, so that relates to resistance in a block and really not being able to make a decision, struggling to move forward. So there's a lot of struggle to move forward with both of these cards. And because it's cups, which is more emotional, that makes me think of like almost relational decisions. So if you're trying to figure out like what your relationship is, this could be friends or romantic, or even family. So this could be related to more like family relationship decisions of what to do, how to spend time with people, who to prioritize, things like that. And it's about having a holistic approach versus a overly logical approach, feeling into what feels right, but also seeking outside sources, outside consultation around how can I approach this in a different way? Because we are often in our own echo chambers of our own thoughts and feelings, and you can't really see past that. It's really hard to see clearly if you're just with your own thoughts. And so sometimes you need that outside perspective to see things differently. Even if that means therapy, but the way that kind of stuff works is often you don't hear your own voice, and when you say it out loud to either a therapist or just a friend, you're able to kind of sort through things by actually hearing them. So getting out of your head and with other people and having a holistic approach to some sort of a decision is what is needed. I hope that helps. I hope that lands for y'all. So this is the last of the Fool's Journey series. And I'm going to be taking a little break from the weekly wellness series, just because it's a busy time of year. So just know that I'm still around, but I won't be posting regularly in the meantime. But for those of you who have followed along, thank you so much for following my Fool's Journey series. And I will see you next time I post. And wishing you all the best in this new year.